Today's Talk 365 TV's Talking Wellness segment is presented by Brain Rehab Clinic. And welcome back to Talk 365. Now, you've mentioned Dr. Chambers is moving down here, or coming down from Oregon. And his specialty is looking at, I'll use some economic terms, the macro picture with blood work and the brain.
He does. We were talking in an earlier segment about concussions and how they impact the whole body. Basically, your whole body comes apart when you injure your brain. And he specializes in, Christine calls him a Sherlock Holmes of blood work, basically, because he is able to look at panels and look at things and put things together that no other doctor can. So in true brain rehab clinic form, if you're suffering with something and you've been to a lot of doctors and you're still feeling sick, you're still feeling tired, and everyone else is telling you from what they're looking at you should be fine, that's when you go to the brain rehab clinic, because those guys down there, they are able to figure it out and they're willing to take the time to do it. So they're really phenomenal with that. And we were saying with concussions, you've never been treated for the concussions that you've had with hockey. But have you ever really been aware of how it was affecting your ability, like quickly afterwards, or like for the year following?
So I was a big spender prior to my last concussion.
A big
I used to, I'd go to Nordstrom's for breakfast. And ever since my last concussion, I have been incredibly cheap.
Cheap? It just like knocked the dollars out of you?
It knocked the
Hit
spending.
Hit him again, Vita. Hit him again.
I know. Husbands watching the show are going to go out and be
hit in the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they're going to hit their wives in the head.
I was going to say that, and that sounded so horrible, but
I said it for you.
Thank you very much.
I'm actually not a big spender though, so.
No, you're very. I mean,
very frugal.
It's funny how that is. I am getting married to a woman who's an incredibly big spender.
But she can be.
She can. Earned it. There's no question, but why do you do it just...
Because you can. You get to reward yourself for hard work. Yeah, it's true. All right, well, we'll discuss this as you check out this Talking Wellness with Dr. Chambers at Brain Rehab Clinic. Here you go.
Talk 365 TV's Talking Wellness is brought to you by Brain Rehab Clinic.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Talking Wellness. Today I am back at Brain Rehab Clinic with brand new team member, Dr. Chambers. Dr. Chambers, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Thank you so much for taking a minute to chat with me. Now, you are from Oregon and you are a specialist in blood work.
Yes.
And I'm super excited to talk about that because the brain and blood work, you're going to answer the question of why. Why do we need to combine the two together? But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about how you came to be part of the team here at Brain Rehab Clinic, because you have a practice in Oregon.
I do.
And we are lucky enough to steal you away one day a month and have access to your amazing abilities and your genius brain. So let's talk a little bit, go back. How did you meet Dr. Hatch? And then what brought you here?
So Dr. Hatch and I have known each other since he was in school, and I had gone down to a functional movement disorders class in San Francisco, and we met down there, and he kind of picked me out of the crowd, and then he had this big giant smile, so we've known each other since and just been really good friends.
Oh, that's nice. And I know you have collaborated on a professional level from a distance, working afar. What finally provoked coming together?
To answer the whole question, right?
Yeah.
I want to learn from him, he wants to learn from me, so collaborating on that at a doctor level is really good. We get to teach each other and learn from each other and humble ourselves every once in a while, so that's really good. And the other aspect of it is people need help, right? People everywhere need help, and if I can help somebody here or I can help somebody at home or wherever, then that's what I need to do, and this has been a big part of it. So.
You are an incredible addition because you specialize in putting the whole picture together. The word on the street is you are the Sherlock Holmes of blood work, which is a huge compliment in the sight of you're a genius in the thing you can figure out the problem. And what I was curious is blood work and the brain. I don't think you'd necessarily think if I've got a concussion or you're suffering with any kind of problems with your brain that you would need blood work. So tell me the correlation there.
Concussion is all about inefficiency, right? So it ruins your reflexes. It ruins your ability to put your finger right where you meant to put it. So hand-eye coordination in an athlete goes way down. But what we don't often think about is that the metabolism also changes. So an injured person's metabolism changes completely. So in the brain, there are requirements. It has to have a certain amount of things or it just won't do very well. First one is oxygen. If you don't have enough oxygen, your brain is just going to suffer. And eventually, if you didn't have enough oxygen, you would die. The brain is always remodeling itself, and anybody who is not being used is being lost, right? That's that activation principle. Blood sugar is a big deal for the brain. If you don't have enough glucose or have too much glucose, then the brain just doesn't do very well. And then if you have an inflammatory process underlying everything, then you get into this place where now it's got too much burden. So, and what I try to do is make the environment perfect for the brain to heal. So the idea of combining the two things is to answer all of the questions that the brain has, right? Activation of that brain is imperative. If you don't turn it back on, it can't do what it's meant to do. But if it doesn't have the fuel and you turn it on, it's like driving a Ferrari, pushing the gas pedal and nothing happens.
No gas.
Because there's no fuel. Right? So if we can find all of the needs of the nerve and then go back and fix those as we're doing the rehabilitation, now we're answering the entire equation for the brain, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love the collaboration. It's something that people want. Going back to you specializing in blood work and what you do there, let's talk a little bit more about how it correlates with different types of injuries. Because interesting, with having a concussion, I gained like 30 pounds in over the course of 2 years after hitting my head. I didn't eat any differently. I was still working out the same amount. Weight was just like going on my body and it was crazy. But clearly, like you said, when your brain is injured, your body shuts down and is a completely different animal at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So the gut-brain connection is really popular right now. We're learning a lot about the vagus nerve. We're learning a lot about the enteric nervous system and how the two are combined together. What that means is if I hit my head, the rest of me becomes inefficient. And we know this from reflexes, right? The things that we test here are hand-eye coordination. We'll test hand-eye coordination, we'll test eye movements, we'll test all kinds of balance things. But what we sometimes forget is that there's a physiologic component to that too. If you don't have the right blood flow to your gut, you're not going to absorb anything that you're supposed to. And so you get poor breakdown of food in the stomach, you get an inflammatory response in the gut, you get food intolerance, you gain inflammatory weight. All those other things keep happening, keep perpetuating themselves. So one part of it is, let's turn that brain back on. The next part of it is, can we put that inflammatory response down? Can we get rid of a food intolerance by doing a brain exercise, but also adding in there something that will be an anti-inflammatory diet, at least periodically? When I treat a concussion patient, 0 carbohydrates for 3 weeks. None. I don't want the blood sugar fluctuation and I don't want the inflammatory response from a poor burning source of fuel.
Got it.
I don't want it. So if I can get them away from them for 3 weeks, their body comes back a lot faster.
Yeah, interesting. Losing the weight after has been a process, right? It went on really quick, but getting it off, I've had to really work hard. And obviously I want to get my blood work done and have you take a look at it and let's figure that out, because I think this is where I'm so excited to have you here. For patients who have been working with Dr. Hatch, they can now come in and have access to you to be able to, like you said, finish the job, really. And for those patients, what is the process at getting the blood labs done and what do they need to do? Is it very specific?
It's really simple. Doctors everywhere order blood labs, right? So when we order a lab, we look for as many things as we can cram into that thing, right? That lab slip, because we want to get all of the information. And when we look at inflammatory markers or we look at blood sugar markers and we look at them, it's like, it would be like going on a cruise and only ever looking out that portal, right? Never getting on the deck and seeing the whole picture. So a good blood panel does that for us. It lets us look at all the different physiologic markers that are happening in the background. And those are things we can't necessarily observe. A lot of people will say, well, I don't really feel different when I eat, but what they're actually experiencing is a lot different than what they expect. I hate breakfast. I don't like to eat breakfast. That's a diabetes thing. People who don't eat breakfast are typically diabetic. Their body's just not giving them the right signals because that reflex is shut off. And if concussion or brain injury or any of this stuff is about inefficiency in anything, it's those reflexes that keep our rest and digest system going. So if we lose control of those things, what we end up having is a system that, it just gets kind of schlumpy, right? It just doesn't do what it's supposed to do in the background. So if you have to think about digesting food, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. I've thought about it a lot. It doesn't work. Thinking about it doesn't help at all.
It does not make it more efficient.
You definitely need you and the blood work. I imagine you get a lot of people who are struggling with things that they've had all of their doctors say you're normal, like you're fine.
Autoimmunity is a great sleeper, right? So this is the idea that somehow the reflex to protect yourself is gone and you're attacking yourself. I see a lot of people who have had a head injury as a kid and now their system just tries to destroy itself. So if you can go and unwind the concussion, but if you leave that autoimmunity, you're just going to repetitively have that concussion. You're going to have all those symptoms over again. So a lot of what I treat is this, let's put your brain back together, but then let's make sure your immune system is stable. Let's make sure the rest of your blood sugar and oxygen systems are stable, and let's keep everything growing, right? Then you're not just The person who had a concussion and was repaired, you're actually a healthier person after we've taken you through that entire process. And then the cool part about that is, you don't need help.
Yeah.
You're not running from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to figure out, oh man,
Now what?
now I got to go see my thyroid doctor. Well, I've got to go see my gut doctor. I got to go back to the brain rehab clinic. If we can take all of that stuff and really correlate them together, then what we see is this powerful mechanism that just heals people and gets them out the door.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of those things come from hormone imbalance. And a
Absolutely.
lot of people don't realize that at the end of the day, it's not a depression pill you need. It's actually might be a boost of testosterone or whatever. So I imagine hormone and thyroid are key for some of those patients who are suffering with anxiety and depression.
Hormone control is actually really cool. So there's the nervous system that affects the pituitary gland, and there's like this interface between pituitary gland, the back of it is neurologic, the front of it is endocrine. That means it's hormone, right? So it takes neurologic stimulation to produce a hormone. That's where it all comes together.
Wow.
And in the concussion patient, oftentimes that pituitary gland is disrupted. So now you're not producing TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, or luteinizing hormone, or follicle stimulating hormone, which are the ones that control your menstrual cycle, right? So you can lose control over your menstrual cycle because of a head injury, right? I mean, that's crazy.
It makes your head explode a little bit to understand it. And it was definitely huge for me because, like I said, I was seeing a series of doctors. They're all phenomenal people, wellness team members that I've been working with both on the show and in real life. And in chatting with Christine and saying, at one point, I think I need to come see Dr. Hatch. I did hit my head about a year ago. And I think it's the cause of all this, and we were able to prove that it was. And so if you've ever hit your head, like you said, you never know when that is going to come back to haunt you.
No, that's true. And the second head injury is the worst. You bonk your head one time and then your reflexes are asleep. And something comes out of left field and you
have no
reflex, so it just smashes you.
So the moral of the story is, if you are not feeling up to par, then this is the place you want to come. You want to have your brain looked at and tested at the Brain Rehab Clinic. You want to get your blood work done, and if you have insurance, then obviously they are covered by insurance and you can go and get it done and be prepared. You can call Christine to find out more information. She will send you all the stuff you need to know, answer all of your questions, hook you up with the labs you need to have done so that when he does come in once a month, you'll be all prepared and ready to see him, and he will start Sherlock Holmesing you with the blood work and putting it all together. And if you're a brand new patient, then there is a series of tests that you would have through Dr. Hatch, and a combination of seeing both of them and some amazing equipment. The gyrostim is here. This is a phenomenal place to come to feel better no matter what stage you're in the game. Even if you feel like you are doing great but just wish you could just navigate mentally just a little bit better, come check it out. These guys will make you get there.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love it. Well, Dr. Chambers, thank you so much for taking some time again. Until next month, because I'm going to come see you.
Absolutely.
We got to look at my blood work. We got to figure me out.
Very good.
All right, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.